It is, what is it, Wednesday morning?
Yes.
January 7th. And we are leaving Harbor Island after a 4-week stay, nearly a 4-week stay. And there's the coast. It is a very calm day today. Great day to go over the Devil's Backbone. The visibility in the water is fantastic. At this point we're going through the shallowest part of the shifting sandbanks at the top of the harbor. One of our precautions today, since there's almost no wind and sails would be completely worthless if the engine failed, is I've got the anchor hanging loose, ready to deploy. You never be too careful. Tip of Man Island and Jacob's Island. Open to the north. This is the water off our port bow. There's our bow wake. And looking back toward Current Point, foreground, and Jacob's Island and Harbor Island to the east, southeast. And this is the top of Eleuthera. Governor's Bay. We're in about 20 feet of water here. And in the near foreground you can actually see the eastern edge of the Devil's Backbone. Looks like we have a motor launch transiting the backbone as well. You make out the coral bands on the bottom here, they're just vivid. This is the area of Preacher's Cave. We're coming up on the beach where you can land a dinghy, and you can see the two lumps of little hillock there, double lump hillock. That is where Preacher's Cave is. It's in that hillock. So you land your dinghy and head in. There's an obvious trail that has a very short distance into where Preacher's Cave is.
I think we found the trail.
Okay, here it is.
We had a couple false starts.
That's right. I think this is the trail to Preacher's Cave. That's pretty exciting. So the story of Preacher's Cave is the Eleutherian adventurers came here from Bermuda, and they were English, and they were trying to escape persecution on Bermuda, religious persecution. So they came on a vessel and they foundered and crashed on the Devil's Backbone, and then they swam in, the theory is, from the backbone where their ship, the William, had run aground, and came up the beach, recovered what they could, and then their first few months in the Bahamas were spent in this cave, and it's known as Preacher's Cave since they were religious, and Ruth's pretty excited about this. Let's catch that, that's important. Okay, it's not very well marked from the beach, but once you get up the trail a little bit, there it is, Preacher's Cave, pretty nice sign. And there goes Ruthie down the path. So here we are at the information sign. There's the cave. Pretty functional as a temporary shelter when you just lost everything. They basically lived off honey and the sea. They named the island after the Greek word Eleutheria, meaning freedom, and planted the seeds of a new nation. That's the notion. And here it is. So here's a very old marker. William, sail, shipwrecked at Devil's Backbone. Found refuge here. Sermons held 100 years. So they continue to revisit this place as a memorial year after year. It looks like Ruth found the area known as the pulpit. Very cool. Another marker of some type. Little bench to enjoy things. And there she is. So this is one of the interesting features that was the Eleutherian adventurers found so blessed. This rocks here would mark a place where you would build a fire, and then directly above it there's a, I don't know, 5-foot diameter chimney. Narrows down to maybe a foot or two at the top, and yet another opening to the surface ahead, providing light throughout the day. Light there, and then back toward the cave entrance. Local traffic today. At this point we are a couple hundred feet offshore. This is the tricky part of the Devil's Backbone. You just have to get in really close to shore. In some conditions you'd be just outside the breakers as they pile up to hit the beach. Hey, Ruthie's in charge. She's piloting us through the Devil's Backbone this time. On the helm, and there's the beach.
Keeping it.
This is as close as we get here. This is the part where the reef is just offshore, and you're looking at the huge largest stand of casuarinas along the coast here. It actually is a really good landmark. This copse of trees here, and then you can see it tapers off there. This shows you where you need to get really close. Looking aft. Well, this is a little unnerving. A little iron shore off the port. This is an area where you need to peel away from the coast and head out a bit in order to avoid the reefs that are now off our bow. Here's some context so this makes a little bit more sense. Harbor Island is here, and then Spanish Wells is over here. This is the top of Eleuthera. The Devil's Backbone's right here. I'm going to zoom in, and here is the top portion of Eleuthera at the very top where the Devil's Backbone is. In this video, this is Governor's Bay here. We were going this direction from west to east, and then we went along here. You can see Preacher's Cave is marked here, and this reef out here is the backbone. And then when you get to Bridge Point, you go out a bit and then back in and through this area called Kettle Bay, and then around Ridley Head, then around Gun Point, and as you round Ridley Head, actually a bit before Ridley Head, Spanish Wells, which is here, comes into sight. Okay, it's a little bit odd to think about the Devil's Backbone as protection, but the reef itself does protect you from the sea swell. And now that we're beyond the west end of the Devil's Backbone, we've got this swell coming in. You can see a 1 to 2 foot easy swell here, giving us a little bouncy. And now you can see Spanish Wells in the distance. Man, the water's clear today. Ruth just made her turn to the west. And there's Spanish Wells. You can see we're significantly offshore now. In a moment, she'll be turning to port again and heading back in toward the top of Eleuthera in order to avoid the reefs that are just offshore off that point there, which is called Ridley Head. Okay, now I'm up a little bit higher on the boom, and you can see we're going over coral, but the coral is deep enough here that not an issue. Off to port, we've got a dark area of coral, and off to starboard, we also have a area of coral. Just off to starboard up here, I can see another coral head. That's going to be a fairly tight little channel there. You can see coral to the left, coral to port, just about 10 degrees off the port bow, and coral to starboard, probably 25 degrees off the starboard bow. So we'll be heading between those two patches. Easily visible to me live. Not sure how well it's going to come through in the video. And then dead ahead is, of course, Ridley Head. You can see from the line of dead seaweed on the beach that we're very close to high tide. Water's covering most of the beach, and that's just a precaution on our part, and also to some degree a necessity when we're passing the portion of this route. It's at the top of the harbor at Harbor Island. Okay, so here we are off Gun Point. It does get a little narrow here. There's a patch of shallower water off to starboard, and that's why we're in so close. But this is the last narrow passage of the backbone. You can see that this area here at the end of Gun Point is privately owned and extremely well landscaped, beautifully maintained. A little bit more of Gun Point and somebody's private paradise. And the series of marks that mark the channel into Gun 12. Alright, we're heading into the eastern entrance to the harbor at Spanish Wells, and it's straight up 10 a.m. We left Briland, Harbor Island, about 8:20, so less than 2 hours, hour and 45 minutes. Total time to transition the Devil's Backbone. Total distance over, through the water on the route is about 8 miles.